What if I told you that your deceased mother has been desperately trying to reach you? Not once, not twice, but an average of 3 times every single week. And you've been blocking her messages without even knowing it. What if the song that keeps playing on the radio, the lights that flicker when you say her name, the sudden scent of her perfume in your empty living room, what if none of these are coincidences, but urgent warnings you're ignoring? What if I told you that for every one person who recognizes these signs, 19 others walk past them every single day, missing critical messages from the other side? I'm Edgar Cayce. Over 40 years, I conducted more than 14,000 readings while in trance, accessing what I came to know as the Akashic Records, the complete record of every soul's journey. And in those thousands of sessions, I witnessed something that most people refuse to believe. The departed don't simply vanish. They stay close. They watch. And when they see danger approaching someone they love, they will do everything in their power to warn them. Today, I'm going to reveal the 7 unmistakable signs that your mother, or any beloved soul who has crossed over, is trying to reach you with an urgent message. And more importantly, I'm going to show you why your rational mind has been programmed to ignore these warnings, and how that ignorance could cost you dearly. Let me start with something that happened to me in 1927, long before I fully understood the mechanics of communication between worlds. My own mother had passed 3 years earlier. I was devastated, as any son would be. But I was also confused because strange things kept happening. Every morning at exactly 6:15 a.m., the time she used to wake me for school when I was a boy, I would hear 3 distinct knocks on my bedroom door. Picture this moment with me. I'm lying in bed, the house completely silent, my wife still sleeping beside me. Then knock, knock, knock. Always the same pattern. Always the same time. For 6 months, I told myself it was the house settling. Thermal expansion, pipes, anything my rational mind could grasp onto. Because accepting the alternative that my mother was standing outside my door every morning, trying to get my attention, felt like madness. Then one night, I gave a reading for a woman whose sister had recently drowned. During the trance, information came through that I couldn't possibly have known. The deceased sister was trying to warn about faulty wiring in the woman's home. She'd been flickering the lights for weeks. The woman had ignored it, calling an electrician who found nothing wrong. But the sister persisted in the reading. 3rd outlet, 2nd bedroom, behind the dresser. The woman checked. The outlet was black with scorch marks, hidden behind furniture, moments away from causing a fire that would have killed her and her 2 children. That's when I understood. The knocking wasn't my imagination. My mother was checking on me, making sure I was awake, making sure I was safe, just as she had done for the first 20 years of my life. I had been given a sign 365 times over 6 months, and I had ignored every single one. How many have you ignored? Here's what I discovered in the Akashic Records that most people have never been taught. Death doesn't sever the bond between souls. It changes the frequency of communication. Think of it like this. When your mother was alive, you could hear her voice because both of you were tuning into the same radio station. The physical frequency of sound waves traveling through air. But when she crossed over, she didn't stop speaking. She simply moved to a different station, a spiritual frequency that requires a different kind of receiver. Your rational mind? It's designed to filter out anything that doesn't fit the narrow band of physical reality. It's like a spam filter that's been set way too aggressive, marking 90% of legitimate messages as junk. Through thousands of readings, I documented that every single person receives an average of 3 to 4 direct attempts at communication from deceased loved ones every week. That's not occasional. That's not rare. That's persistent, deliberate, repeated contact. But here's the terrifying part. Only 5% of people, 1 in 20, actually recognize these attempts. The other 95% walk through life surrounded by messages they can't see, warnings they can't hear, love they can't feel. And mothers are the most persistent of all. In my 40 years of readings, I found that mothers who have crossed over are the most active communicators, especially when they sense danger approaching their children. They will try every method available until something breaks through. But here's where it gets really interesting. The methods they use aren't random. Through the records, I discovered that there are 7 primary channels through which souls on the other side can pierce the veil and reach those they love. 7 specific signs that, when you learn to recognize them, become unmistakable. These aren't subtle. They're not vague feelings or wishful thinking. They're concrete, repeatable, pattern-based communications that follow specific rules. Let me show you exactly what to look for. If you're ready to finally hear what your mother has been trying to tell you, hit that like button right now. Because what I'm about to share could literally save your life. The 7 signs your deceased mother is trying to warn you. Sign number 1, the repeated song. The first sign is one you've probably experienced but dismissed as coincidence. A specific song, usually one deeply connected to your mother, plays 3 or more times within a 24-hour period through seemingly random sources. Not just any song. Her song. Maybe it was the one she hummed while cooking. Maybe it was playing during a significant moment you shared. Maybe it was her favorite artist or the song from her funeral. And it doesn't play once. It plays in your car, then in the grocery store. Then someone's phone rings with that melody in the elevator. 3 times minimum, often more, within 1 rotation of the sun. Here's what I discovered in the records. Sound is the easiest frequency for souls to manipulate from the other side. Music carries emotional resonance, and emotion is the bridge between dimensions. When your mother wants to get your attention, she will quite literally tune the world around you to her frequency. But here's the critical detail most people miss. It's not just about the song playing. It's about what you're thinking or feeling when it plays. That's the message. Let me tell you about Margaret, whose case I documented in 1932. She was a widow, 45 years old, drowning in depression so severe she'd stopped eating. Her mother had passed 8 months earlier, and Margaret felt completely alone in the world. During our session, I accessed the records and immediately saw her mother's frantic attempts to reach her. Every single day for 8 months at exactly 11:11 p.m., the lights in Margaret's bedroom would flicker. Not brownouts, not electrical issues. Deliberate pulsing, 3 quick flashes, then steady light, then 3 more flashes. Margaret had noticed. Of course she'd noticed. But she'd convinced herself it was faulty wiring and done nothing about it. In the trance state, her mother came through with crystal clarity. Tell her to remember our prayers. Tell her I'm still praying with her. Tell her 11:11 was our time. When I relayed this, Margaret broke down completely. For 20 years, every night at 11:11 p.m., she and her mother had prayed together. first when Margaret was a child, then over the phone after she married and moved away. It was their sacred ritual, their spiritual connection. Her mother hadn't stopped praying at 11:11. She had simply moved to a different realm and was using the only tool available to her, the electrical field around Margaret's lights, to say, "I'm here. I haven't left you. We're still connected." Margaret started praying again at 11:11. Within 3 weeks, her depression began lifting. Within 3 months, she was functioning again. The lights stopped flickering, not because her mother left, but because the message had finally been received. The key elements to recognize with the repeated song sign. First, the song must have deep personal significance. Random songs that mean nothing don't count. Your mother isn't going to send you a message through a commercial jingle you've never heard. Second, it must appear 3 or more times in rapid succession, usually within 24 hours, sometimes within a single week. Once is coincidence, twice is probability, 3 times is communication. Third, pay attention to your emotional or mental state when the song plays. Are you making a difficult decision? Facing a crossroads? Dealing with a toxic person? That's when the warning becomes clear. The song isn't just hello, it's pay attention to this moment. Have you been dismissing a song that keeps following you? Maybe it's time to stop and ask, what was I thinking about when it played? What decision am I facing? What am I ignoring? Sign number 2, the electrical anomaly. The second sign moves deeper into the mechanics of how souls interact with our physical world. Lights that flicker, electronics that malfunction, devices that turn on by themselves. Specifically, when you're thinking about or talking about your deceased mother. This isn't random electrical failure. This is targeted, meaningful manipulation of electromagnetic fields. Here's what the Akashic Records revealed. Human consciousness is fundamentally electrical. Your thoughts are electrical impulses. Your emotions generate electromagnetic fields around your body. When someone dies, they don't lose their consciousness. They lose their physical body. But consciousness, that remains electrical in nature. A soul on the other side can't pick up a phone and call you. But they can absolutely interact with the electrical fields around you. It's the closest thing to a physical touch they can achieve. Picture this scenario with me. You're sitting alone in your living room, telling a friend about a decision you're struggling with. Maybe a job offer in another city. Maybe a relationship that's falling apart. Mid-sentence, the lamp next to you flickers 3 times, then goes steady, then flickers twice more. Your rational mind says, bad bulb, bad wiring, needs an electrician. But what if I told you that in that exact moment, your mother's consciousness was literally right next to you, trying desperately to get your attention? What if those flickers weren't random, but deliberate? A spiritual Morse code saying, stop, listen, danger ahead. Let me give you another documented case. In 1938, I gave a reading for a businessman named Robert, 42 years old, facing the most important decision of his career. A potential business partner wanted him to invest everything he had, his savings, his home equity, everything, into a venture that couldn't fail. Robert was skeptical but tempted. The numbers looked good. The opportunity seemed real. But every time he sat down to sign the papers, strange things would happen. His desk lamp would turn off. His pen would roll off the desk. Once, the overhead lights in his office went completely dark for 10 seconds, then came back on with no explanation. He called electricians. They found nothing wrong. Everything tested normal. During our session, Robert's deceased mother came through with urgent intensity. She showed me images of his potential partner, showed me the truth behind the false promises, showed me documents that didn't exist yet but would surface within months. Fraud, embezzlement, criminal intent. Her message was clear. Don't sign. This man will destroy you. I've been making the lights go dark because I need you to see the darkness in him. Robert listened. He walked away from the deal. 6 months later, exactly 6 months, his would-be partner was arrested for fraud. Multiple investors had lost everything. Robert's mother had literally saved him from financial ruin, and she'd done it by manipulating the one thing she could reach: the electrical current around him, the key elements to recognize with electrical anomalies. First, timing is everything. Random electrical failures happen, but electrical anomalies that occur specifically when you're thinking about your mother, saying her name, looking at her photo, or making an important decision, those are not random. Second, it's repeatable. If you're genuinely dealing with a spiritual communication, you can test it. Think about your mother intensely for 60 seconds. If the lights flicker, the TV changes channels by itself, or your phone does something unexplainable during that minute, you've just witnessed direct communication. Third, the anomaly often correlates with the intensity of the message. A small flicker might be, "I'm here, I love you." Complete power loss, or multiple devices malfunctioning simultaneously. That's "Stop danger, pay attention right now." I know how that sounds. I know you've been trained to dismiss these experiences as coincidence or mechanical failure. But ask yourself this: how many times does the coincidence have to happen before you admit it's not coincidence at all? Subscribe to this channel if you're ready to explore truths that most people aren't brave enough to face. Because we're only at sign number 2, and what comes next will challenge everything you think you know about communication with the departed. Sign number 3, the scent memory. The third sign is perhaps the most emotionally overwhelming: the sudden, unmistakable scent of your mother's perfume, her cooking, her soap, or any smell deeply associated with her. Appearing out of nowhere in closed spaces where that scent has no logical reason to exist. Not a faint whiff, not "maybe I'm imagining this," but a full, rich, undeniable presence of her scent, as clear as if she just walked through the room. The Akashic Records revealed something profound about scent. It's the most direct pathway to emotional memory. Your olfactory nerve connects directly to the limbic system, the emotional center of your brain. No other sense has such immediate access to your feelings. Your mother knows this. When she needs to bypass your rational mind and speak directly to your heart, she uses scent. Think of scent as the skeleton key to locked doors. Your logical mind can rationalize away songs on the radio. It can explain electrical problems. But when you're sitting alone in your sealed apartment and suddenly smell your mother's lavender perfume, the same perfume she wore every day for 30 years, your rational mind has nowhere to hide. Here's a case that demonstrates the life-saving power of scent communication. In 1941, I gave a reading for a hospital nurse named Catherine. Her grandmother had raised her after Catherine's parents died, and when the grandmother passed, Catherine was heartbroken. But something strange started happening during Catherine's shifts. Whenever she was assigned to a critical patient, someone who appeared stable but was actually deteriorating internally, she would smell lavender, her grandmother's scent, strong, clear. unmistakable. At first, Catherine thought she was having olfactory hallucinations from stress, but it kept happening. Lavender would flood her nostrils, and within hours, that seemingly stable patient would crash, every single time. During our session, I saw the truth in the records. Catherine's grandmother had become what I can only describe as an angel alert, a soul working from the other side to help Catherine save lives. The lavender wasn't random. It was a warning system. This patient needs immediate attention. Trust me. Check again. Catherine started trusting the sign. When she smelled lavender around a patient, she would do additional checks, call for second opinions, monitor more closely. She saved 11 lives over the next 2 years. 11 people whose deterioration would have gone unnoticed until too late, if not for her grandmother's warning. The scent was love made tangible. It was protection reaching across the veil. The key elements to recognize with scent memory. First, it appears in impossible circumstances. Not in a garden where flowers bloom. Not in a store where perfumes are sold. But in your locked car. Your closed office. Your bedroom at 3 a.m. with all windows shut. Places where that specific scent has no physical source. Second, it's intense and brief. Not a background smell you barely notice. It hits you like a wave, unmistakable and powerful, then fades within seconds to minutes. That intensity is deliberate. It's meant to stop you in your tracks. Third, it often comes with an emotional download. The scent arrives, and suddenly you feel something. Urgency, peace, warning, love. That feeling is the message. The scent is just the delivery vehicle. And here's something most people don't know. You can ask for this sign. Before bed, speak to your mother. If you're trying to reach me, let me smell your perfume tomorrow. I'm ready to receive. Then pay attention. Many people report the scent appearing within 24 to 48 hours of asking. You've seen this yourself, haven't you? That moment when you suddenly smell something that shouldn't be there, and your heart knows exactly who it is, even while your mind scrambles for rational explanations. What if your mind is wrong? What if your heart has been right all along? Sign number 4, the dream visitation. Now we enter the realm that most people are willing to consider, but still don't fully understand. Dreams where your deceased mother appears, not as a memory or fantasy, but as a conscious, intelligent presence delivering specific instructions or warnings. Not all dreams of the deceased are visitations. Most are simply your subconscious processing grief. But true visitation dreams have unmistakable characteristics that I documented across thousands of readings. In the Akashic Records, I discovered that the dream state is the most reliable communication channel between dimensions. When you sleep, your rational mind, that aggressive spam filter we discussed, goes offline. Your consciousness shifts to a frequency much closer to the spiritual plane. The veil becomes thin. The door opens. Your mother isn't creating the dream. She's entering a space you've both accessed, meeting you halfway between worlds. Here's how to distinguish a true visitation dream from regular dreaming. First, extreme clarity. Visitation dreams are more vivid than normal dreams. Colors are brighter. Details are sharper. When you wake up, you remember every word, every gesture, every nuance, sometimes for years afterward. Regular dreams fade within hours. Visitation dreams remain crystalline. Second, your mother appears healthy and purposeful, not as she looked when sick or dying, not confused or distressed. She appears at her best, and she's there with a mission. She has something specific to tell you or show you. Third, she gives actionable information, not vague comfort, not abstract symbolism. Specific instructions. Don't take that flight. Check the documents again. That person is lying to you. Open the drawer on the left. Direct, clear, useful information you can verify in waking life. Let me share the case that opened my eyes to the life-altering power of dream visitations. In 1938, a man named Thomas came to me, exhausted and confused. For 2 straight weeks, he'd been having the same dream every single night. His deceased mother standing in front of a door in his office building, pointing at it repeatedly, shaking her head no, then pointing at a different door and nodding yes. Always the same 2 doors. Always the same urgent gestures. Night after night after night, Thomas worked in a building with dozens of doors. He had no idea which doors she meant. But the dreams were so intense, so persistent, that he scheduled a reading with me despite being skeptical of the entire process. When I entered the trance state and accessed his mother's consciousness in the records, the message came through with perfect clarity. The partnership meeting. Don't go through the door on the right. Use the door on the left. Everything depends on this. Thomas was indeed about to finalize a major business partnership. There were 2 conference rooms on different floors of his building. His partner had suggested the room on the right, 3rd floor, east wing. Thomas's mother was desperately trying to redirect him to the room on the left, 2nd floor, west wing. I told Thomas, I don't know why, but your mother is emphatic. Change the meeting location. Use the other room. She's been trying to reach you for 2 weeks, and this is her final attempt. Thomas trusted the reading. He changed the meeting room with some excuse about better lighting. And in doing so, he accidentally seated himself next to a window that overlooked the parking lot, where he could see his potential business partner meeting secretly with one of Thomas's competitors, exchanging documents, clearly plotting something underhanded. The partnership was a setup. The man planned to steal Thomas's proprietary information and hand it to his competitor. If Thomas had been in the original room, which had no windows, he never would have witnessed that betrayal. He would have signed the papers, handed over everything, and been destroyed. His mother saved his entire livelihood through 2 weeks of persistent dream visitations. The key elements to recognize with dream visitations. First, repetition. If you dream of your mother once, it might just be grief processing. If you dream of her 3 nights in a row, delivering the same message, that's visitation. She's trying to make sure you remember. Second, she makes direct eye contact and speaks clearly. In visitation dreams, there's a sense of real presence. She looks at you. She sees you. It's not like watching a movie. It's like being in the same room with someone who's actually there. Third, you wake with conviction. After a regular dream, you might feel confused or uncertain. After a visitation dream, you wake up knowing, absolutely knowing, that you've received a message. There's a certainty that comes with genuine contact. If you're finding this unsettling, that's exactly what should be happening. The truth about communication with the departed isn't comfortable. It's not safe. It demands that you question everything you've been taught about death, consciousness, and the nature of reality itself. Drop a comment below if you've ever had a dream of a deceased loved one that felt different from a regular dream. Describe what made it feel real. I want to hear your experiences. Sign 0 to 5, the animal messenger. The fifth sign is one that appears frequently but is almost always dismissed. A specific animal, most commonly a butterfly, bird, or dragonfly, that seems to follow you, appear at significant moments, or behave in unusual ways that draw your attention repeatedly. Not just any animal. A specific one that keeps showing up, that lands on your shoulder, that taps on your window, that appears every time you're thinking about your mother or making a difficult decision. Through the Akashic Records, I learned that souls can't fully materialize in physical form, but they can guide, influence, and work through creatures that are already physical. Animals are sensitive to spiritual frequencies in ways humans have forgotten. They can sense presence and energy that we've trained ourselves to ignore. When your mother needs to make her presence undeniable, she'll often work through the animal kingdom, particularly creatures associated with transformation and freedom. The butterfly is the most common messenger. Why? Because it literally embodies transformation from one state to another. Your mother has transformed from physical to spiritual when a butterfly lands on you repeatedly, hovers near you persistently, or appears in impossible locations, inside your closed house, in the middle of winter, in places where butterflies simply shouldn't be. Pay attention. Birds are the second most common messenger, especially if a specific bird keeps appearing. Maybe a cardinal sits on your windowsill every morning at the same time. Maybe a robin follows you from your car to your front door. Maybe you keep finding feathers in strange places. Your purse, your car seat, your pillow. I documented dozens of cases where birds became reliable communication channels. One woman reported that every time she considered ending her life, a blue jay would appear and make such aggressive noise that neighbors came outside to see what was wrong. Every single time. The bird was her mother's urgency made visible. Here's what most people don't understand. Animal messengers aren't random. They follow patterns. They appear at crucial moments, and they often behave in ways that violate their normal patterns. That's how you know you're dealing with spiritual guidance rather than natural behavior. A butterfly that circles you 7 times isn't just flying randomly. A bird that taps on your window at 3 a.m. isn't confused about reflections. These are deliberate signals, the key elements to recognize with animal messengers. First, unusual behavior. Normal animal behavior is predictable. Messenger animals do things that make you stop and say, "That's strange." They're too persistent, too unafraid, too specifically timed. Second, repetitions with the same species. One butterfly is nature, the same type of butterfly or bird appearing 5 times in 3 days at significant moments. That's communication. Third, timing that correlates with your emotional state or decision-making process. The animal appears when you're upset, when you're praying, when you're about to make a choice. That timing isn't random, it's responsive. I know some of you are thinking, this is too much. This sounds like magical thinking. But let me ask you something. Have you ever had an animal behave in a way that made no sense? That seemed almost aware of you. What if that awareness wasn't the animals, but the consciousness guiding it? Syntype 6, the physical object. The 6th sign is perhaps the most concrete and undeniable. Objects that belong to your mother, appearing in places where they couldn't possibly be, or objects connected to her memory, showing up at impossibly meaningful moments. Not misplaced items you forgot about. but objects that appear in locations you've already checked multiple times. Jewellery that wasn't in the drawer yesterday but is there today. Photos that fall off walls for no reason. Coins appearing repeatedly in your path, always the same year, the year she was born or died. In the Akashic Records, I observed that moving physical objects requires enormous energy from the spiritual side. It's the hardest thing for a soul to accomplish, because it requires manipulating dense matter. When it happens, it means the message is urgent, and the soul is expending tremendous effort to break through. Think about how much energy it takes you to move a coffee cup across a table. Now imagine trying to move that cup without a physical body, using only consciousness, only will, only the force of love. That's what your mother is doing when she makes her wedding ring appear on your nightstand. The effort involved means these signs are rare, but incredibly significant. When they happen, stop everything and pay attention. I witnessed a case in 1936 that demonstrated this perfectly. A young woman named Helen came to me because her mother's locket, which had been buried with her mother 3 years earlier, appeared on Helen's pillow one morning. She lived alone. All doors and windows were locked. There was no break-in, no logical explanation. During the reading, her mother came through with desperate urgency. The locket was a message. Inside the locket was a photo, and the photo would reveal a truth Helen needed to know. Helen had never opened the locket in her life. It was sealed, and she'd thought it was empty. She brought it to our next session and opened it in front of me. Inside was a photograph of Helen as a baby, held by a man who was not her father. Or at least not the man she'd called father her entire life. The photo revealed a secret that her mother had carried to the grave, and which she now needed to reveal. Helen's biological father was alive, living in the same city, and he had resources that could save Helen from the financial crisis she was facing. The locket appeared because Helen needed to know the truth. Her mother had found a way to return what had been buried, to bring back what needed to be seen. That's the power of physical object manifestation. It's not just a sign of presence. It's usually attached to critical information. The key elements to recognize with physical objects. First, impossibility. The object appears where it has no logical reason to be. You've checked that drawer 50 times. It wasn't there yesterday. It is there today. Second, personal significance. It's not random objects. It's her jewellery, her handwriting, her favourite flower. Something that unmistakably connects to her. Third, timing synchronized with need. The object appears when you're facing a crisis, making a difficult decision, or desperately needing guidance. And here's something crucial. The object itself is often secondary to what the object represents or contains. A key appearing might mean unlock something. A letter found might need to be reread. A coin from a specific year might be telling you to remember what happened that year. The object is a prompt. You have to interpret the message. Have you found something of your mother's in an impossible location? Did you dismiss it as your own forgetfulness? Or did you stop and ask, what is she trying to tell me? Sign number 7. The emotional download. 3-6 minutos. The 7th and final sign is the most subtle but potentially the most urgent. A sudden, overwhelming emotional sensation that seems to come from outside yourself. A feeling of intense urgency, warning, or pressure to act, with no apparent external cause. Not your normal anxiety or intuition, but a feeling so strong, so foreign to your usual emotional patterns, that it stops you in your tracks. a sensation that something is wrong, something needs your attention right now, and you must act immediately, even though you can't explain why. This is the emergency broadcast system of spiritual communication. When all other channels have failed, when time is running out, when danger is imminent, your mother will attempt a direct download of emotional energy into your consciousness. In the Akashic Records, I discovered that emotion is pure energy, and energy can be transferred across dimensions. Your mother can't always manipulate your physical world, but she can absolutely influence your emotional field. Especially if you're receptive. The sensation usually manifests as sudden, unexplainable dread when everything appears fine, an urgent need to call someone you haven't thought about in months, an overwhelming compulsion to change your route, cancel a plan, or avoid a situation for no logical reason. A feeling of being pulled in a specific direction, like invisible hands guiding you. This is your mother's consciousness touching yours directly, bypassing all intermediary signs. Let me give you a perfect example. In 1939, I gave a reading for a man named Edward, who'd experienced something that terrified him. He'd been driving to an important meeting, running slightly late, following his usual route. Suddenly, without any logical reason, he felt overwhelming panic. Heart racing, hands shaking, absolute certainty that he needed to stop the car immediately. He pulled over, confused and frightened. Sat there for 5 minutes trying to calm down. Then continued driving. 2 miles ahead, at the exact time he would have been crossing that intersection if he hadn't stopped, a delivery truck ran a red light at high speed and collided with 3 cars. Everyone involved was hospitalized. 2 people died. During our session, Edward's mother came through clearly. She'd been screaming at him, spiritually screaming, to stop the car. The emotional download was her last desperate attempt to save his life, and it worked. He felt what she was feeling, terror for his safety. The emotion was so strong, so foreign to his own emotional state, that it forced him to act against all logic. The key elements to recognize with emotional downloads. First, the emotion is sudden and disproportionate to circumstances. You're fine one moment, and the next you're flooded with feelings that don't match anything happening around you. Second, it's accompanied by physical sensations, hair standing up, sudden chills, heart racing, hands trembling, stomach dropping. Your body is responding to spiritual proximity. Third, it includes a compulsion to act. It's not just a feeling, it's a feeling plus an urgent instruction. Call them. Don't go. Turn around. Check on something. Do this now. When you feel an emotional download, you have a choice. Dismiss it as anxiety and continue with your plans, or trust it and act immediately. The difference between those 2 choices can literally be life or death. I've documented dozens of cases where people ignored the emotional download and regretted it, and dozens more where they trusted it and avoided catastrophe, illness, or irreversible mistakes. Your mother doesn't have time to subtly manipulate songs or wait for you to notice patterns. When she sends an emotional download, it's because the danger is immediate and the window for action is small. If you've ever felt a sudden urge to call someone and discovered they desperately needed to hear from you, or avoided a situation for no reason and later learned you dodged danger, that wasn't lucky intuition. That was your mother's love, protecting you from the other side. The deeper truth. Now that you understand the 7 signs, I need to reveal something that most people never learn. These signs aren't just about communication. They're about spiritual responsibility. Your mother doesn't send these signs because she's lonely or bored in the afterlife. She sends them because she has a sacred contract with you, a soul agreement that transcends death. In the Akashic Records, I witnessed the truth. When we're born, we don't arrive alone. We bring with us a team of spiritual guardians, usually souls we've known in other lifetimes, often including our future parents. These souls agree before incarnation to watch over us, guide us, and protect us even after they themselves transition. Your mother's contract didn't end when she died. If anything, it intensified. Here's what most people don't understand. Death gives souls capabilities they didn't have in physical form. Your mother can now perceive things you can't, dangers you can't see, patterns you haven't recognized, people whose true intentions are hidden from you. She can see the man who's lying to you. She can see the opportunity that looks good but will end badly. She can see the health issue you're ignoring that will become critical. She can see the timing of events you're not prepared for. But she can't intervene directly. Free will is sacred. She can only warn, suggest, signal. The decision to listen is always yours. When you ignore her signs, you're not just missing messages. You're forcing her to watch, helpless, as you walk toward outcomes she tried desperately to prevent. Think about how it would feel to watch your child approach danger and not be able to scream loud enough for them to hear you. That's what your mother experiences every time you dismiss a sign as coincidence. The 7 signs I've shared aren't random phenomena. They're a language. And like any language, it requires both a speaker and a listener. Your mother is speaking. The question is, are you listening? Why you ignore the signs? So why don't you recognize these signs? Why do 19 out of 20 people walk past urgent messages from souls who love them? The answer is both simple and devastating. You've been programmed to ignore them. From childhood, you were taught that death is final, that the deceased are gone, that anything suggesting otherwise is superstition, wishful thinking, or mental instability. Your rational mind has been trained like a guard dog, attacking any thought that doesn't fit the materialist worldview. When a sign appears, when the scent of your mother's perfume fills your car, your mind immediately launches an attack. You're imagining it. You're grief-stricken. You need therapy. This training serves a purpose in navigating physical reality, but it comes at a terrible cost. It cuts you off from 90% of reality, the invisible dimensions where consciousness continues after physical death. Your mind becomes a prison, keeping you safe from spiritual experiences, and keeping you isolated from souls trying desperately to reach you. But here's what the Akashic Records revealed. You can retrain your mind. You can teach yourself to recognize signs without dismissing them, to remain open without becoming delusional, to differentiate between wishful thinking and genuine spiritual communication. It requires practice. It requires patience. And it requires willingness to be wrong about some of your most fundamental assumptions. But the reward? The reward is a life where you're never truly alone, where love transcends death, where guidance is always available if you just know how to look for it. The practical exercise. Let me give you something practical. A protocol I developed based on 40 years of readings that will help you finally tune into the frequency where your mother has been broadcasting all along. For the next 7 days, you're going to deliberately open the channel. Before you go to sleep each night, sit on the edge of your bed with both feet flat on the floor. Take 3 deep breaths. Then speak out loud, yes, out loud, these words. Mum, if you're trying to tell me something, make me notice it tomorrow. I'm choosing, pick one, a repeated song, an electrical anomaly, a scent, a dream, an animal, an object, or an emotional feeling. I'm ready to receive. I'm paying attention now. Choose 1 sign per night. Rotate through the 7 signs over 7 days. Then, and this is critical, carry a small notebook or use your phone's notes app. Throughout the following day, write down every instance that could possibly fit the sign you requested. Don't filter. Don't dismiss. Just record. 10:30 a.m. Heard Amazing Grace on radio, Mum's favourite hymn. 2:15 p.m. Lights flickered when I said her name. 7 cow p.m. Smelled roses in my car. She grew roses. Every unusual occurrence, no matter how small. At the end of 7 days, review your notes. Look for patterns. Look for repetition. If the same song appeared 3 times after you asked for it, that's not coincidence, that's communication. If you smelled her perfume twice in impossible locations, that's not imagination. That's presence. Here's why this works. You're doing 2 things simultaneously. First, you're giving your mother explicit permission and a clear channel to work through. She knows what you're looking for, so she can focus her energy accordingly. Second, you're training your rational mind to observe without immediately dismissing. By writing things down without judgment, you're collecting evidence. And evidence is what your rational mind needs to accept new realities. Some of you will experience dramatic results within days. Others will need several weeks of practice. Your mother's ability to reach you depends partly on your receptivity, partly on her own spiritual development, and partly on what I can only call cosmic timing. Some periods the veil is thinner than others. But I can promise you this. If you do this exercise with genuine openness, and you follow through with recording and reviewing, you will begin to perceive communication you've been missing your entire life. The question isn't whether she's trying to reach you. She is. She has been. She will continue. The question is, will you finally let yourself hear her? Closing transformation. I want to leave you with something I discovered in the Akashic Records that changed how I understood the relationship between the living and the dead. Love doesn't diminish with distance. It doesn't fade with time. And it certainly doesn't end with death. Your mother loved you when you were born. She loved you when she held you. She loved you when she taught you. She loved you when she worried about you. And when her physical body failed and she transitioned to the spiritual plane, that love didn't stop. It transformed into something even more powerful. Now, unencumbered by physical limitations, unbound by time and space, her love has become a force that can reach across dimensions, manipulate energy, and work tirelessly to protect you from dangers you haven't even perceived yet. But love without response becomes anguish. Imagine trying to warn someone you love about danger and being unable to make them hear you. Imagine watching them suffer, knowing you could help if only they would recognize your presence. That's what happens when you dismiss the signs as coincidence. You're not just missing messages. You're causing the soul who loves you to experience the agony of being unheard. The 7 signs I've shared today are gifts. They're proof that death is not the end of relationship. It's a transformation of relationship. Your mother hasn't left you. She's simply operating from a different dimension, and she needs you to learn the language she's now speaking. Here's the truth that will transform your entire experience of grief and loss. They didn't stop loving you just because they stopped breathing. They stopped being able to reach you because you stopped paying attention. Living as someone who recognizes these signs changes everything. You move through life with confidence, knowing you're never truly alone, that guidance is always available when you need it most. You make better decisions because you're drawing on wisdom from both dimensions. Your physical perception combined with spiritual insight from souls who can see patterns you can't. You transform grief into ongoing relationship, replacing the emptiness of loss with the fullness of continued connection. The choice available to you right now, in this very moment, is profound. You can close this video and return to your programmed skepticism, dismissing everything you've heard as fantasy or delusion. You'll continue missing the signs, walking past urgent messages, remaining isolated from the love that surrounds you. Or you can choose something different. You can choose to open, to observe, to consider the possibility that your mother has been desperately trying to reach you, and you've been too trained in dismissal to hear her.